Sinister 2, rated R, August 28th.
You should know goddamn better than that, man. I mean, come on. You see something in the distance, and then you flash your light back, and then you put it back on there, and there's the monster. Just like... Now you can see why this one doesn't have the same spark as the original Sinister does. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up August 21st, 2015. As the summer season comes to a close, and we are heading into the dumping months. The dumping month of late August, early September. Before we get to the Oscar contenders, the movies that the studios believe in, our first movie is not that film in particular, Sinister 2. So following the events of the first film, a different family, a mother and her 2 sons, move into a rural home that's marked for death. When the deputy from the first film learns that the family is next in line, to face the demon Bagul, he races before time to stop it and save it from the same fate. Now, the first Sinister movie worked because it was a great horror movie using old-school horror cliches, but being very clever about them. Having great characters you can relate to, generally effective scares that don't rely specifically on jump scares, pretty much everything wrong with every horror movie released today. And let's be perfectly honest, some of that is definitely in this movie as well. But we'll get to that in a second. But another key part of this is that this comes from the brilliant writing of Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, who clearly do have an idea of what makes for good horror, and the clever production style of Jason Blum, who has found a way to make smart, intelligent, and entertaining horror films, as well as the ones that mix them with the ones that just plain suck, like The Gallows. But here's the thing. Scott and Cargill were working on Doctor Strange when this was coming out, and that should be another sign that, yeah, this thing ain't gonna work out too well. I mean, if you want to see a horror sequel with something that they created that worked, The Black Phone 2 is a perfect example of that, because, of course, they wrote that and directed it, and Scott Derrickson directed it, and they came back for the sequel, which is probably one of my favorite horror sequels of recent memory. I mean, Sinister 2 was not a big hit critically. It was a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a huge critical failure compared to the 62% from the first film. So does that make this movie as bad as everyone puts it out to be? I wouldn't say so. In fact, this is probably one of the better horror sequels that I'll say. Maybe since Evil Dead 2. And I know that's something that feels kind of a little far-fetched and all that, but I enjoyed it. I actually thought there was clearly an approach to taking with this, that they didn't want to redo the first film over and over again. The writing of Derrickson and Cargill does put this movie to another level than before. Now, with all that said, this movie is nowhere near as good as the first Sinister was, and I think I know the reason why. Scott Derrickson's not involved in this as the director. He doesn't have as much creative control with this one because he's working on Doctor Strange along with Cargill. And after hearing that there was a difference in opinion about where the story Bagul would go, you definitely get the sense of ideas not coming together very well here in this movie. You got James Ransom returning as Detective So-and-so, who's really great in this movie. And once again, Shannon Sossman's very good in this movie, although some of the lines they give her in this come off as pretty corny in some spots. The kids are really good and definitely come off as very menacing in the best possible ways. And yeah, the scares in this go for more specifically jump scares, and yeah, compared to the first movie, which in the first film they worked because they were genuine old-fashioned ones, but in this one you definitely can tell they're the typical jump scares where you see them in lousy horror movies, even to this very day, even as of 2026, you still get these horror movies that use the generic-ass jump scares. I mean, how many times have we seen a dark lobby and you see dark hallway and you see something in the distance, and then you move the flashlight away, and all of a sudden the thing is right in front of you. It's just like, how many more times are we going to do that? The main problem with Sinister 2 to me is that if they go for more of the typical lousy horror movie style instead of the different approach that the first film did. But to the movie's credit, it definitely does show a lot more effort and interest in expanding the universe, the story of the universe, that most horror sequels do. I actually do want to really think about it. When was the last time you had a really good horror sequel? Evil Dead 2? I mean, if you want to talk about recent sequels, Paranormal Activities 2 and 3 are really good. The Final Destination movies are not bad. Scream 2 is a great sequel. I mean, I just named 5 sequels from when this was coming out that I could say are some of the best sequels out there. And they're very few and far between compared to Sinister 2, which I think is one of the best horror sequels up to that point in time. Now, since then, horror has definitely gotten much better over time, and we've had much better sequels out there. I mean, look at what happened with Final Destination Bloodlines last year, and then, what was the one we just had recently that was surprisingly really good? Well, Black Phone 2 is another one I just mentioned, but yeah, it has gotten better over time, but yeah, this one definitely is not as good as the first film, but you can definitely still see the effort being put into it to make it a worthy follow-up to such a great movie. A lot of it works, but a lot of it doesn't. don't let the critics tell you that this is one of the worst movies of the year, because, yeah, there are much worse movies out there. Half of them were put up by Warner Brothers this year, but I can tell you this is not the case, though. It's a good sequel, not as good as the first film. I mean, if you go into it with the right mindset, you can still have a good time with it overall. Watch it at your own risk. I'll say that, So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is a sort of sequel to Hitman, although Timothy Olyphant is not here. Neither is the director of this movie. Could they finally find some life in Hitman Agent 47?
Hitman Agent 47.
You made him mad.
I do that. Rated R.
Sadly, no. This is another one of those examples where somebody takes a film that was not as spectacular the first time around and somehow makes it even worse. I don't even know how that's possible with a film like this, but then again, when you have the same writer, Skip Woods, who wrote the first Hitman movie, yeah, that's probably not a good sign. And your director's a first-time director. Yeah, this is going to backfire big time here. But Hitman Agent 47, it centers around an elite assassin who's been genetically engineered from conception to be the perfect killing machine, and is known only by the last 2 digits of the barcode tattooed on his back on his neck. He's the culmination of decades of research and 46 earlier agent clones, endowing him with unprecedented strength, speed, stamina, and intelligence. His latest target is a megacorporation that plans to unlock the secret of Agent 47's past to create an army of killers whose power surpass even his own. Teaming up with a young woman who may hold the secrets to overcoming their powerful and clandestine enemies, 47 confronts stunning revelations about his own origins and squares off in an epic battle with his deadliest foe. Yeah, the original Hitman movie was not the greatest, but I do give it credit for being more atmospheric and doing it and taking a lot of chances with it, especially with Timothy Olyphant in there. This one, yeah, this one feels like it's just it's a sequel made by people that had they have no intentions on making a good movie based off of this character, even though you do have a good actor in here, Rupert Friend, who was in The Libertine, and he was in Pride and Prejudice, and he's not a bad actor as Agent 47. Unfortunately, they're just not given a whole lot of material to work with here, and the movie is really boring, man. I mean, the original movie was at least trying, and at least worked on the visual scale, but this is just like, come on, man. Like, how do you make a movie this boring out of a character like this? It's not hard to make a Hitman movie good. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can make this work, but keep in mind, this is also around the time when studios didn't really give a shit about making good video game movies based off the material. I mean, they just made them because, oh, they're popular with the kids and all that. And yeah, while we're a couple of years away from the turning beginning with the video game movies that's going to start with the Angry Birds movie next year, yeah, this is definitely one of those films that clearly was not made with the intention on making a good movie in general here. I mean, this is about as bad as Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. That's how bad this movie is. It's like, you took a movie that wasn't that great to begin with, and you somehow made it worse. Like, it's just like, it makes no sense whatsoever why they did this. It's just, yeah, it's a bad movie. It's a really, really bad film. Avoid Hitman Agent 47 like the plague. But hopefully someday someone will make a good Hitman movie out there, but it's not going to be anytime soon, I don't think. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is American Ultra.
Oh, help me.
American Ultra. Rated R. In theaters August 21st.
So in this movie, you have a stoner played by Jesse Eisenberg, who is in fact a government agent. He's marked as a liability and target for extermination, but he's too well trained and too high for him to handle. Quite literally, because he's literally a stoner. Kristen Stewart co-stars as his girlfriend alongside Topher Grace, Connie Britton, Walton Goggins, John Leguizamo, and Bill Pullman. And the premise for this sounds like an incredible idea. A stoner assassin action comedy that sounds incredible, and you think this movie would take the premise and do everything they can to make it work. And does it do it? Yes and no. I mean, yes, because the concepts they do take with it are so cleverly handled in the way you expect it to do so, such as that great climax scene in the grocery store that comes close to the brilliance of The Equalizer's last action scene, which took place in a Home Depot. But I say also no, because the movie doesn't get to take full advantage of every possible situation they could have taken with this. Also, that's really where a lot of the faults come into the movie, because it goes into predictable cliches and uses them without doing nothing new or creative with them. One of the other problems with the movie is that a lot of the comedy doesn't work in here, except when it's with the creative elements and some of the characters of the film overall. A lot of the comedy doesn't really work very well as it should with a premise like this, but that being said, there are a lot of things I did like about it. I like the casting of Jesse Eisenberg. Kristen Stewart is really good in here, proving that, hey, it's not her fault the Twilight movies are terrible. They're just badly written films. Connie Britton, I thought, was really good in this. Topher Grace surprised the hell out of me at how good he was. He actually had some of the funnier lines in here. Walton Goggins is maniacally brilliant as the laugher. John Leguizamo, Tony Hale, Bill Pullman each work very well with the material given to them. And the movie does keep it to a nice 3-act structure, and not having to force a long story to go with it, about 96 minutes long. It does get a story out of the way, and everything you need to know out of the way without feeling like you're sitting there for a long time. But it works. It's fine for what it is. It's a unique premise, but unfortunately it doesn't take the full advantage of the possibilities that they had to work with. But when it does work, it really does work. I think a movie like Pineapple Express, which has sort of the same plot, except it's just two regular stoners with no assassin training and any kind, so that makes the movie, I mean, it's more enjoyable than American Ultra is, easily. I still think this is a good movie, though, and I think it will have the potential to become a cult comedy hit decades from now, and it's got a lot of those things that's showing the potential for that to happen. Like, this is going to get starting to play more on DVD and Blu-ray in the next couple of years. Comedy Central, FX, FXX will probably play it down the road. I don't even think they actually did, but, I mean, it may become one of those new modern-day cult films, but as of right now, I liked it, but there's no reason why you should rush out and see it. It's a fine movie. Don't expect Pineapple Express level quality, though. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll wrap up August with 3 more movies, including this year's Courageous, War Room, made by the same people who made Courageous. We also have Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, and Pierce Brosnan starring in the action thriller No Escape. And we'll also take a look at We Are Your Friends, starring Zac Efron, and also featuring Joe Manganiello among them in a coming-of-age teen adult comedy, I guess it is, but wasn't a big hit, so you probably don't even remember it even existed. But we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at those 3 films coming up tomorrow on the show, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.